was like, where? I was like, where is? Yeah, Matt, and make sure to record while I'm like spitting out the good
While you're
stuff.
talking about your vomit, yeah.
Yeah. No, I was like, it was so disorienting and in the dark. I was like, are we just over another car? If I puke, am I gonna like rain down puke on somebody else? So I just swallowed it, and
Say
then
the ride again.
my friends who I went with were just like, weirdly protective of me the whole rest of the time, and I felt bad that they
Say the ride again.
Harry Potter and the puking in your
Gringotts.
mouth
There's
castle.
one is Gringotts, and then there's another one, and they both made me sick. But I also had like a cold and an ear thing going on. So now I don't know if Universal makes me sick or it was just that I was sick at Universal. But judging on my experience overall, I think it's the motion sickness. Can you do like Ratatouille or Mickey's Runaway Railroad or that format?
I haven't tried those.
Okay, yeah.
I did okay with the Six Flags Justice League ride. I did fine with that a few times.
I
It's
haven't
just
been on
something
that.
about like when you're being jerked around and the screen is stationary. I think that was a
Yeah,
big
then
problem with that one.
you're
That's
not
just
gonna like those other rides I just mentioned.
I mean, I
Luke,
don't
you
like
any
that anyway. I don't That's not even cool to me. I either want to be in a dark ride where they're like animatronic things waving at me, or I want to be on a roller coaster going 75 miles per hour upside down, which I have no problem with at all.
So
Or
Spaceship
straight
do
Earth,
any
down.
rides make you vomit?
No.
Huh? Oh.
No. Okay. I think the zipper did it for me at like the
Oh,
county fair.
Zipper's a monster. Dude, those rides, that's a whole different class of things. Like those are built to destroy you
Yeah.
and possibly kill you. There's like
it's true.
one of the last times I rode one of those carnival rides, it was like this thing where it was one of those things where you sort of are going in a set pattern, but you're going in a loop that's around another loop. And I kept going straight down towards the leg of the ride and saw basically the leg with two wooden blocks under the leg. So I had to keep seeing the wooden blocks under the leg over and over, and then I threw up. Anyway,
Okay.
No, no,
those are bad.
bad.
Um
No.
anyway, I guess we should probably get to this.
Shout out to Steel Curtain in Pittsburgh was the last awesome ride I rode. It was the tallest inversion in the world.
Ow.
You go upside down at like 220 feet in the air. It rules.
And you did not die.
Not even
Congratulations.
close. Yeah, I do fine with those. No problem at all.
Just to throw out the lay of the land of what we're doing, we'll do a little introduction. How we first saw the movie, how it sticks in your life or doesn't. I'll do a little synopsis, and then we just kind of riff for a while, and at the end, decide if it's a film or filth, and we'll read like a bad review for it because it's supposed to be a good movie.
I've spoiler alert, I found a bad review that I pretty much agree with.
Okay,
Oh,
cool.
interesting.
All right.
Number
Saves
93.
me finding one. All right. In at number 93, it's the conclusion, sort of, to the story about toys.
It's still my conclusion. Toy Story 3, I have not seen Toy Story 4 yet because Toy Story 3 was such a wrap up to the series. I keep hearing 4 is good, 4 is great. You should watch 4.
I like 4 better.
Okay.
Sorry.
I should watch 4. I get it, but
I'm not actually. No, I'm not sorry.
No, it's like
we'll
you
get into
watch The Last Jedi and you can be finished with Star Wars. Okay, maybe that's not what I did with Toy Story.
This is more like the Return of the Sith of Toy Story movies, though. This is
Okay.
very much
absolute banger.
I mean, people get banged. There's a lot of lava. Okay, granted, no toys lose their legs that we can see, but I'm sure there's some in there.
They do in the first one. I guess we should get to introductions. This is Matt here.
This is Luke here.
This is Mark here.
It's Films and Filth, the Citizen Kane of podcasting. It's Toy Story 3 today. Joining us from not too far away from Walt Disney World. She is currently on Mission Log Live talking about Strange New Worlds. She doesn't know it yet, but she has done this twice already because this is the future. Hello, Heather. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, you can.
I love it.
Matt loves confusing everyone by like just taking the inside baseball and just dumping it out on the table before we even start.
I am not special enough to watch the first 2 episodes. I'm like the only person that doesn't get screeners. So I watch it with everybody else. I have no clue. And I guess I could have gone to the premiere, but it was very small and hush hush. So I will find out in 2 days what's in
Yeah.
this first episode.
It's temporally confusing. Um, as far as Toy Story 3, this might be the movie I've seen the most times, possibly, because my daughter was like 2 when it hit Blu-ray. So, for like what, 6 months, this was on like every weekend until, yeah.
But thank God it wasn't Frozen, right?
That happened too.
I like Frozen better than this movie.
Okay. Yeah, Mark's on our dissenting opinion today for Toy Story 3. I mean,
not enough songs.
Yeah, so not enough songs in this. We'll get into it. I'm going to
Okay.
keep saying that until we actually are just done with the episode, and I'll say we'll get into it.
Maybe it's just fully brainwashed me, so I don't know. Luke, what's your experience on this one? You would have been a 20-year-old hipster that didn't want to see Pixar movies when this came out, right?
Nope, this came out and I was at Glastonbury Music Festival where they have a cinema tent, and we saw on the schedule so this was like a week before the film came out, and it said like Thursday night Toy Story, Friday night Toy Story 2, Saturday night mystery film, and we were like, okay, we know what that is. So yeah, I saw this the week before release. And I mean, I would think I was specifically the target audience because I was almost the same age as Andy and had watched 1 and 2 when I was also the same age as Andy. And I liked it well enough, and I thought it was a good ending. And I felt, oh, that concluded Toy Story, and I have never watched a Toy Story movie in the 15 years since until I rewatched this one last night. And I actually think I'm going to be somewhere between you and Mark.
I saw this in the theater. Actually, I had already seen 1 and 2 on like VHS or something, but around the time 3 came out, they re-released 1 and 2 in 3D because this was the first one in 3D and possibly the last one. I don't know if 4 was in 3D because there's that weird thing where things stopped coming out in 3D without any fanfare very recently, like the new Spider-Verse movie, not in 3D, unfortunately. But yeah, so I saw all 3 of those in 3D within a week. This is my least favorite Toy Story movie. I still like it, but it's there are some things that don't work for me in this.
Yeah, this is where I fell off the cinematic Pixar bandwagon because I don't have the guts to go see a movie in Japan that's dubbed in Japanese with no English. I know Luke has braved this several times, but
yeah, but I won't go and see. No, I've gone and seen Japanese films in Japanese, or I've gone and rewatched a film in Japanese, but I haven't gone and watched a Pixar for the first time in Japanese.
But yeah, so this level of film I tend not to see in the theater anymore for that reason. Heather, how'd you come to Toy Story 3?
I guarantee I saw this in the theater, although I don't remember. But I remember crying because this one definitely got me in the feels. And I was actually thinking as I rewatched it today, like, did the 4th movie take away from this movie as an ending? And then I got too much in my head about, like, can a movie really take that away from you? Like, if you thought this was like the not penultimate, but the ultimate, the final, like this was the end for you, then this is the end for you, and that's fine. But this, like, I'm really curious to hear your all's opinions because this of the movies is my favorite. I like 4, but I don't think 4 was necessary, even more so after rewatching this twice recently, because this was where it felt like the whole family was cohesive. And it turned into being about found family, which it was always about found family. And so we end in this beautiful note where they're, sorry, spoilers, together, and then 4 just takes it in a different direction, and just what's the point? So I'm curious. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Change my mind, make me hate it.
Well, I guess I'm the one that came in like, oh yeah, this should be my ending, and that's why I haven't moved forward with the series.
Yep.
I think I like 4 better because I think that a lot of this movie was transmitting to me that life is pointless, and 4 is like, you know what, life is pointless. let's go on an adventure.
You don't want to take an adventure to a trash
because
heap?
it's like it's really difficult for me to watch this, and it's like I know that, well, okay, I still have toys. Most people of our generation are sort of in this arrested development thing, and I definitely still qualify even now. So maybe it kind of made me feel like a loser for not ever packing up my toys and going off to college. I lived at my mom's house during college for half of it. When I did move out of my mom's house, I went and broke really fast and had to quit college. So like
You're
maybe it's
going
this.
through what Lotso is going through in the movie.
Yeah, I'm more of sort of a Lotso, except for I'm not a fascist. And also, if someone saved my life, I would save their life. Also, I wouldn't run a daycare prison for no reason. Really, he didn't seem to be getting anything out of it.
Needs to be in the
but
better room.
this is the center of what didn't work for me, is that there's that incinerator scene, which a lot of people consider the best scene of the movie. And I was watching it just like, they are not going to incinerate these toys. The
So
only people who believe that are going to be kids who don't deserve that. I was just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I should say this film was very different this time round than it was for me the first time round. So the first time I saw it, I was in the cinema tent at a music festival. So it was me and 100 other very drunk people. So we fully believed it, and we were all bawling our eyes out.
Oh,
and
man.
and like, because like I said, I haven't watched the film since. So when I went back to it last night and watched it, and I got to that scene, and I was like, oh yeah, this is so obviously just Disney movie. They're about to be rescued. Like, how did I ever fall for this?
You're as cynical now as I was when the movie came out.
Yeah, whereas the first time round I wasn't, but now I am. And then yeah, there's a lot of the film to me doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah, for me, I felt like it was the ending scenes that made the movie for me, because I don't think the rest of it was all that great. But like during those scenes, I was so focused on how the characters were interacting with each other. Like it was absolutely playing on my heartstrings that way, not so much that, like, we know they're not going to die, even if you're, I guess not if you're drunk. Like you're like, oh, it's gonna happen. They're actually gonna do it. Disney's going all the way. But it was, again, like, it's like the first movie we have kind of the main crew. The second movie we get Jesse and the horse. Sorry, forgot its name right now.
Sure.
Bullseye. It came right as so like we had them, and then this and it's especially like what I loved in the beginning of this film is how it opened on them all getting to play together in like Imagination Land. And so you got to see the entire crew like happy and like alive, doing their thing, enjoying life like as a family, as a unit. And I felt that was kind of what you got at the end, again, was them coming together in that big moment of, oh my gosh, we could all be gone right now, but they're going to go through it together. I don't know, again, it's that found family thing for me. And then when you go back and now Andy's giving the toys to Bonnie, and now all the toys are getting played with again and then going into a new life, it was just too much for me. So
let me go ahead and Mark, go ahead first, and I'll
I was just gonna say I
synopsisize.
really like Bonnie. That's it. I like Bonnie better than Kid Andy, actually.
Oh well, yeah. Also, that was my daughter's age when we were watching. She kind of looked like that at the time. So yeah, that made the movie. That's probably why we were watching it every week, and in part. As far as the synopsis goes, here goes. Andy's toys have been going through the motions for years since Andy has grown up and no longer plays with them. He's off to college and has enough sentimentality to bring cowboy toy Woody along, while the rest are destined for a box in the attic. But hijinks ensue, the toys almost end up in the garbage, yet finesse their way into the Sunnyside Daycare Center. It seems idyllic at first, with the charming Lotso bear promising a sun-kissed golden years for the toys. Woody quickly escapes as Andy was going to bring him to college, but the other toys discover that they are actually prisoners to be played with by the most young and violent toddlers. Space Commander toy Buzz Lightyear tries to hash things out with Lotso, but his toy programming is altered and he becomes just another crony of Lotso. Meanwhile, Woody is picked up by a nice girl named Bonnie who presides over a bunch of nice toys. But he learns of Lotso's tyranny and returns to Sunnyside to jailbreak his friends. The escape almost works out, but Lotso intervenes, and mostly due to that jaded bear, the resulting struggle puts the whole Lotso of them face to face with the hellfire of a trash incinerator. The divine hand of an alien claw or a garbage scow saves the Lotso of them, though Lotso himself ends up tied to the grill of a dump truck. The other toys make it back to Andy, who, with a subtle prod from Woody, gifts the lot of them to Bonnie. Okay, summary complete. I don't know how long that was.
Oh, that was acceptable.
Uh,
That wasn't
okay.
too long.
It was somewhere between early Mark synopsis and later Mark synopsis.
Okay.
Yep.
Luke is the arbiter of when we go on too long with the synopsises.
I'm gonna keep cutting mine down until they're like nothing.
That's the ideal. That's the dream.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're eventually gonna do a movie that I really hate, and I'm just gonna be like, people show up and do stuff.
You could just read the IMDb synopsis. It's usually like one line, nothing.
I've plagiarized a few of those. Just read the back of the box.
Well, we did the recording for the Hungover games where I think Luke did give us the sentence long synopsis, and that was fine. That was more than was necessary for that movie. So
True. Okay, so I don't know, what's everyone's favorite Pixar movie, and why?
Ooh. Ooh.
Cars 1 because it's a great sports movie.
Okay, I've never actually seen it, and I'm not gonna hate on it because I haven't seen it, but
I've seen
Yeah,
that a few times.
I think
would say-
Cars gets lumped in with all the sequels and everything because the first Cars is fine. It's a good film.
I never believe
Yeah.
the internet when it's like the internet decides a movie's bad. That's just, you know.
I haven't seen it, otherwise I would say The Good Dinosaur just to really be like counterculture.
I saw it. It's not that great.
My favorite is
Wasn't-
Up, because Up hits you with all the terrible things in the very beginning, and the rest of the movie is just a depressed man surrounded by wonderful things until he eventually learns to appreciate how all the wonderful things are happening to him. And it literally is called Up, and you're basically just watching a man be lifted out of depression, which is the opposite of what Pixar does sometimes.
I guess
I think
a
they
nice
learned the
synopsis for
wrong.
that.
They learned the wrong lesson from Up, and were like, "Oh, people like the sad stuff. Let's just do that all the time."
Well, yeah, they you're right. But I think they were already sort of trying to change it up because there was sad stuff in Wall-E before that. But I didn't think Wall-E worked as well as Up did. I think Wall-E to me should have just been robots. Like the humans ruined it.
Yeah, I love Wall-E up
Yeah.
until the humans appear.
Yeah.
I figured you probably agree with me on that.
Well, so mine is Ratatouille, and I think Ratatouille ends on a really positive, upbeat note. Like that's a happy movie for me.
Yeah, Ratatouille's one I haven't seen since the theater, but my girlfriend says the same. She's like, "I love the ending of Ratatouille," and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
really? The ending? I don't remember it." And then she tried to describe it to me, and it's just like he cooks the food and everyone likes it.
I think Ratatouille is probably the best job. I mean, of the movies I've seen, I haven't seen all of the recent ones, but it's the best job they did of making something that is sprawling and epic. Like that movie is, it feels like almost like a biblical epic. Like there's so much going on in it, but it's, you know, rats. I don't
It
know.
is. And that's like, I love that they extended that into the parks as something, even though you may throw up if you go on it, but it's still just super fun.
My immediate thought when you said that was just because rats cooked food for you.
Possibly that too.
That's the restaurant next to the ride. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess my favorite maybe is Inside Out, which has the fun title Inside Head in Japan, because it's got the weird surrealism.
Accurate.
It's got the psychodrama stuff. Like on a metaphysical level, I don't agree with that movie at all, but that doesn't mean I don't enjoy it, you know.
I've heard that that film is actually really useful for child psychologists.
I've been putting off watching it because I heard it's like devastatingly sad, just like Coco also has this reputation, but Coco's on this
Ugh.
list, so I can just watch it for this podcast.
Coco is amazing. Coco is like is Coco Pixar too? Like that's I lose
Yes.
track of who is what now because
Mhm.
Coco I also love that movie. And even though yes, there's a sad element, like it's just so beautiful of a thing, and then it's not like sad because then they're all get to be on Day of Remembrance and be together. So yay.
That's actually airing exactly 1 year from when we're recording this podcast.
Wow.
That's weird, but yeah, I also I said I like Frozen. I also like Moana a lot more than a lot of the recent Pixar films
Love
I've seen.
Moana.
But now you're out
Yep.
of Pixar land. I thought about Moana. I was like,
Well,
wait a minute, that's not Pixar. It's not Pixar.
It's
Yeah.
but it's great. It's really, really great.
Oh, it is.
Also, that line is very blurred because didn't like the head of
Mhm.
Pixar take over being the head of Disney and stuff?
Yeah, and Raya and the Last Dragon was to me flawed in the way that I would expect a Pixar movie that was weird to be flawed in, because the messaging was all weird.
I don't think I've actually watched a Pixar all the way through since Toy Story 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
I-
is it that weird? I know
I don't know.
this is strange
I've
coming
missed a
from
lot.
me, but like I am a
Um,
30-year-old man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're not a
it's,
15-year-old girl inside? What? Because that's, I mean,
Well, Matt can describe to you the way I am a 15-year-old girl inside because I've got every Taylor Swift album on my wall over there.
And a shrine to Princess Peach.
Yeah. So like I'm not above being into childish things. I'm just not specifically into that childish thing anymore.
I think I
Yeah.
kind of a combination of my daughter being the age where she doesn't really want to watch Pixar, right? Because she's about to turn 14, so that's
Mhm.
although it's Japan, she still watches lots of anime, but she wasn't as interested in seeing the new ones, and I think I've kind of fell off the wagon somewhere around Onward. I was like, well, we're gonna watch it.
Yeah, Onward
Pair of
was
Walking Pants.
This is the thing about Onward Onward is the kind of movie that I always wanted Pixar to make, but it didn't quite work for me. It felt maybe a little bit too much of an overcorrection, and that it was just about kids hanging out.
Yeah, it was kind of the first one where I think I was, I don't know if I like this.
Well, Soul actually offended me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually had I'll go ahead and spoil this. Just a mild spoilers for Soul. There's a part where the man who is a jazz music instructor and was really good at piano gets a job. He fights to get back to his body. He gets a job playing in jazz clubs. And then the leader of the band is like, "Oh, see ya tomorrow night, different club." And he's sort of like, "That's it?" And then she's like, "Yep, that's it." And then he just goes back to death. He's like, "You know what? I don't want to be a working musician." I think that must have been some kind of weird animator burnout seeping through. But I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this guy who spent his whole life teaching music doesn't know that being a working musician means going to this club every night? God. Ugh. Also, it was to save obnoxious Tina Fey ghost or whatever the hell that was.
Yeah, I don't know. I quit watching that movie in the beginning. I made it 30 minutes and I was bored. And that movie got a lot of like other criticism around it. I went back and watched it and I just didn't think it was very good overall.
Yeah, it's like good soundtrack, good actors, but it just like they had a bunch of like New Zealand. Everybody in the afterlife was from New Zealand, so it was really like weird. But yeah, the messaging was just like, what the hell is going on with this?
Yeah.
Let's turn the focus back to Toy Story 3 then.
Okay. Well, we had to,
No, I thought it was worth having the Pixar rundown.
Yeah.
But I was wondering which would be your main toy of the slot. I have my Lotso here, of course, so I guess I chose them by proxy. I don't like hugging though. That's one of the reasons I like living in Japan. Nobody hugs in Japan. Even families just like waving.
I'm a big hugger, and I've still got my stuffed lion, which was basically my Woody right there. Of the Toy Story toys, the one that appealed to me was always Buzz, because I was like a big action figure kid, and I've got my Transformers and stuff like that. And the Buzz, if I was in that world, I think the Buzz toy I would have desperately wanted, just like all the kids did in the first film.
I guess it's kind of like having
Oh.
my Galvatron in the 80s. He's the one that turned the purple gun, right? That
Yeah, he
flashes.
turns into a big phallic gun.
Yeah, yeah. But it flashes through the plastic translucent tube, so that's cool.
I
Yeah.
stand Galvatron. Galvatron was awesome. He was always pissed.
Mm.
Um, I like the telephone. I don't know why. I like the
Dude,
I
telephone.
love the voice of the telephone.
Yeah, it's like I like just the weird off kilterness of it and how he's sort of like the grizzled informant, but he's a telephone.
Did you
Also the Kristen Shaw Triceratops. But I just like
Yes.
Kristen Shaw a lot. And
Yes. I was kind of blown away going back to look at who voiced things that Michael Keaton was the Ken doll.
Same. I
I
saw that literally last night
didn't
as I was getting ready to play the movie, and I was like, huh?
Yeah,
I
just
didn't
like,
get that.
whoa, okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know. I like Bo Peep, but she wasn't in this movie.
Mm.
So I feel like I just have to default to Woody because Woody's Woody and I love Tom Hanks. Uh, but I don't like I had My Little Ponies. Like I had a Barbie. I did like the Barbie and Ken stuff. Yeah, it was fine. But it's hard for me to pick a specific toy out of this lot. So I
sometimes I
don't
like
know.
to
I'll
sign
Woody.
my letters like Ken, with a little heart at the end of my name.
Yeah, the Barbie Ken stuff was great, and I was like, wow, I hope the Barbie movie is as good as all this stuff we're watching right now from 10 years
Right?
ago.
Like it totally made me like, oh wow, I hope that's gonna be fun. And just a fun play on the worlds.
It does. I do have pretty good hopes for that Barbie movie.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be good, actually.
The trailers
Yeah,
knocked it out of the park.
yeah.
Mark, did you have the phone in your preschool? Do you remember the phone from being a tyke?
I didn't have a preschool. We were poor.
Oh, okay. I mean, I went to a cheap
Well,
one,
I
but
went
yeah,
to school when it was free. I never went to a summer camp, and and actually I did the whole thing where I was a patrol in school to get to take the trip to Washington D.C. and my parents were the only
Yeah.
ones who wouldn't pony up the $100. So I didn't. So I did that for nothing, and it probably has left me with a vaguely healthy disrespect of all authority and distrust of all parents.
no, I definitely remember like drooling on the phone as a very young lad. So it did stick out to me the phone.
I had one of those little things where you push the thing that looks like a lawnmower and the balls pop. But
Yes,
that's never in
yes.
these. I don't think. Yeah, I had a
No,
Mr.
that's
J Dad.
exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
So it's in this one, Mark.
Is it in this one? Did I
Yeah.
miss that? Damn, that's the thing. The best thing about these movies is there's so many toys all the time that you just are overloaded and you
Yeah,
can't even catch all of them.
yeah.
That sounds like someone who hasn't seen Toy Story trying to pretend they've seen it. What do you like about Toy Story? Oh, all the
There's
toys.
so many toys. I don't know. Tom Hanks, he's great.
I'm trying to think of what my toy set was as a child. Of course, had a bunch of the Transformers.
Yeah, I did too. I still have a Grimlock.
Yeah, like it's weird what toys I actually have here because I do have a few things from my childhood in this house in Japan that somehow got over here, but very few. So it's like the opposite of Mark's thing, right? Where they're all he didn't box them up.
Oh well, speaking of Ratatouille, a bunch of rats actually pooped all over our toys in the attic, so my mom threw them all away. So
Okay.
imagine that Toy Story movie.
It's the Toy Story Ratatouille crossover everyone wants.
Yeah.
It's like a zombie movie where the rats are coming in to poop on them.
They're like, I don't know where Remy is. I'm just nervous. I'm just gonna poop on all these toys. And the toys are just like, no, stop it.
Although we Sidded is that we did like Sid,
Yeah.
where our bad movie guest Andrew and I would take GI Joes and paint them and deconstruct them to make X-Men because they didn't have X-Men toys in the early 90s that were any good.
I had friends who did that, and I was just sort of like jealous. But I couldn't bring myself to do anything to my own toys because I was like, the poor thing.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I was always convinced I would get in trouble if I ever did anything to any toys.
I mean, I probably would have felt like that too. But no, the rats did it for me.
I think it was kind of like at my house we didn't modify the toys, but at his house we modified the toys because I mean that's
I mean, The one thing I did have that was actually the non-poor person thing I had was I had a Scorponok. You guys know what a Scorponok is?
Of
It
course, I
was
know what
like,
Oh,
Scorponok is.
yeah, it ruled.
well, I
I
don't know.
always,
I don't
it
know.
was like a
It's a scorpion
transformer that was
transformer.
a scorpion, but also
Okay.
its head came off and turned into a little guy. So I
Oh,
would
sweet.
always like transform the little guy into a guy and put him in the head slot and stand it up, try to stand it up so that it looked like a tiny man with a giant scorpion for a head.
I had a
So
full
I haven't changed
Voltron
that
once.
much.
I had a full Voltron once, but
Well, that's
I remember
awesome.
it broke relatively quickly.
Mm.
I have a bootleg Thomas the Tank Engine Voltron where it's like a Voltron made out of Thomas the Tank engines and
Very cool.
it barely supports itself. It is very bootleg.
The kids here where me and Matt work would go insane for that.
It's, I gave one to a friend and he kept it in the box and I was just like, keep it in the box. It will not support itself.
Yeah, I was sitting here because Luke and I teach a fair amount of small kids, and I'm sitting here wondering what kind of pummeling they give the toys. I guess we're seeing more of the caterpillar room than the butterfly room. Yeah.
See, I have an
Yeah,
Emmy.
sometimes.
You see how I have an Emmy? I
Very
won
nice.
an Emmy. And the Samus. So when I'm asleep, they probably all like chase each other.
No, I just again I got lots of here. Maybe he's gonna kill me in my sleep. I don't know.
Nice. I don't know. Would Lotso kill a person? Like, how many times do you think he would have to get replaced before he would start just actually killing people?
Give it a year or two.
Two more times?
It'll be child's
Yeah, he was
play.
on the verge. He was on the verge there.
So
I mean, he was kind of complicit in maybe murdering our toy family, right? By
he
not hitting the
tried.
button.
He attempted murdered everyone.
Yep.
Just because
that
he
was a
didn't feel
shock.
special.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna redeem Lotso at the end of this movie, and we didn't. Mark, is that what makes you cynical?
It would have been so easy for them to just do it. There was just, it was like there was a mandate that you have to punish the bad man.
I feel like it was more surprising that they didn't redeem him.
That maybe I feel like that too. It's just, it didn't feel like that kind of movie. Maybe.
Like the family was too big; they couldn't take in anyone else, like an evil.
Well, someone hasn't seen the Fast and the Furious franchise because they can always take another bad guy and make them part of the family.
I actually haven't, but I do have
I could.
I have this cup from the movie theater, so this cup also comes to life and recruits racers when I'm asleep, probably.
I've heard I need to see it just for Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa is phenomenal in the most recent one, yeah. He's having the time of his life playing the bad guy.
This is the thing. I never get around to seeing things, and they keep making more of them. So it's just like a pile of work that keeps piling up higher and higher.
Yeah. Now the last Fast and the Furious I saw was the Tokyo Drift. So that's how far behind I am.
I understand that feeling, Mark, but you really don't need to see them to understand the next one.
I would start with Tokyo Drift. That is something that I do in every video game that I'm possibly capable of drifting. I drift constantly.
Come on, roll the dice. Start with part 10.
What about 7, 5, right? Is that
10? Start with 10. 10 is
10?
your first
Okay.
one. Hell, 10. I
still haven't
seen them. Oh, I did see that. I was about to say I haven't watched one in its entirety, but I did watch Hobbs and Shaw. So, and I could watch the first day because I do have them on a Blu-ray that I got for $10. But when 9
they're
came out,
everywhere.
yeah. So, well, they're in my room. I could get to this.
For you, they are everywhere.
Yeah. I got Pixar in my room. Yeah. So, no, up to Toy Story 3, I think I do have, except for maybe Cars 2. I don't know if Cars 2 was before or after this. So
there were 3 Cars, right? And the
Yeah.
third
Yeah.
one, I got the impression the third Cars was also about everyone is old and dying, just like this movie was.
I think the third Cars was like Rocky 5, where he's like training the young buck.
And he has brain
Yeah.
damage.
Yeah.
Like, let me shift into gear. I'm gonna stop before I say something
yeah, I feel
problematic.
I feel like if you switch to the planes, things get much worse because that's the straight to video.
Dane
version, right?
Cook.
Yeah.
Dane Cook, it's
No.
what Dane Cook docking with a much smaller plane the entire movie or something. that what's going on?
I didn't have to watch that, so
I think that one also was not Pixar at all.
Yeah, it was Disney, which who knows what that means.
Well, there was a period, I think it was like a year, where Cars made more money than the rest of Disney combined.
Jesus.
Because they could just keep selling toy cars with a little face on them.
Yeah.
Because everyone wants to buy into the fantasy that everyone having a car is sustainable.
No, because I do like, yeah, just talking about what's involved with what. I do the occult Disney podcast where up to now it's been mostly linear. Like maybe we forgot something, went back, but after the Little Mermaid, things just start to get whack. It's like, does a Goofy movie count? The Hufflepuff movie, does that count? Do you add in Pixar now? Do you wait till later?
Little Mermaid 2, Little Mermaid 3.
I think straight
No,
to
those
video
don't count.
Yeah, straight to
Aladdin
videos.
3, Jafar's
Those
Revenge.
don't count. But listen, I have heard no less than 3 people in like the last 2 days mention the Goofy movie. So like that, whatever. I've not seen the Goofy movie, but it is legendary for some people, apparently.
It is, yeah, it's
It's
very
a
well
meme.
regarded.
It's a huge meme thing, whether it's good or not. I don't think I've seen it. Maybe I have.
It's popular with kids of like my generation. I also haven't seen it, but yeah, I know it's just.
Well, how old are you? Sorry, I don't mean to out your age.
Oh,
that's fine. I'm 32.
Okay,
I'm 45.
42.
So I think Matt's what, 44?
That's right.
43.
Good at math you are.
Yeah, good.
Like I do wonder how younger, like 20 and under people view these movies that I grew up with. And like I like the newer movies much more than the movies I grew up with, but they vary in production quality and everything else that I wonder what the standouts are for younger people.
I feel like the closer we get to someone that's like, say, Luke's age, that I just expect Luke's generation to be kind of unstuck in time because they grew up with more internet than we did. Because that's the thing. As soon as I was able to pirate things, I was like, oh no, give me everything from every country, from every period. I'm listening to disco all the time. I'm watching Russian crime films. That whole thing being shackled by what's of the moment was just gone. So I'm sure not everyone feels like that, but I certainly did.
That's my theory for why we had such a huge 80s nostalgia period, but we didn't quite get the same thing for the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Because for us 90s kid, like the stuff we grew up with never went away. It was always just a tap of the computer away from me. So like for 80s kids, you grew up watching Transformers. Transformers went off the air. It wasn't that available then for like 20 or 30 years.
Yep.
Whereas for my generation, Pokemon came off the air, but I could just go and watch an episode online anytime I wanted. Like it never really left for me.
That was the thing. I was obsessed with Transformers. The animated series was everything to me. And it just ended after 3 years. It just ended. Nobody said it's canceled. Things were sort of wrapped up, but and then the thing is, in Japan, they continued to get Transformers series over and over again until we had internet where I could find out about all these things in the 90s.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, they had a couple more seasons, and they had Robots in Disguise.
I remember watching in early YouTube. I was watching all these badly translated Headmasters episodes. They're just those are funny.
There is a thing though. I mean, and that's I guess with toys too. All of us have at least a few toys in our room, if not more. But like just having the physical media, like for movies, I don't know what Russian crime drama to watch. Got some Discovery showing up there. That's Saru. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fully posable.
But yeah, like for me, I like thumbing through the physical media, like going through the movies, having no clue what I'm going to stumble into, or rifling randomly through CDs, which I don't even have like ordered particularly well anymore.
Well, here's an admission that no one can use to prosecute me because the statute of limitations has to be over and the company's gone. When Blockbuster came out with a thing that was like Netflix discs in the early 2000s, I had a DVD burner, and they had all these obscure films, I think because they just took over a bunch of mom and pop stores. So they had all these kung fu movies that barely existed. I rented one every single day, copied it every single day, sent it back. So I got like 500-ish movies on disc. So that was my physical media for quite a while, really.
But you can rifle through those, and maybe if you wrote the title on it, yeah, hopefully you did.
I did.
Okay, you said that sounds cool, and it's in your hand, and I guess you didn't get the artwork, so that's too bad. But it's different
cool
than going to
until...
the Wu-Tang site on YouTube, you know, where it's like, oh my God, there's so
Yeah.
much here I don't even know what to do with, even though it's got all the best kung fu movies.
It's cool until you have to move, and then you realize that you've become a hoarder because you have too much physical everything. And that did happen. 2017, I was like, oh no, I'm suddenly a hoarder. And I had something like, I don't know, 8 pieces of Pyrex, living by myself, just stuff like that. I was like, this is insane. So I have I kind of feel differently about physical media. Like I feel a little bit iffy about it, I guess. But I bought a bunch of 4K Blu-rays not too long ago. By a bunch, I mean like 6 or 7. But Transformers the movie, RoboCop, Total Recall, Starship Troopers, the important stuff.
Right.
The weird thing I've noticed. So I'm a big Pokemon fan, and it's not difficult for me to find Pokemon toys in Japan. Like, they're everywhere. So I've realized the stuff that I actually get nostalgic about is if I see something and it's in like the box and the everything around the edges is the 90s version. And it's like, oh, I'm nostalgic about seeing this in Toys R Us and wanting it and buying it and opening it. Once I get it and I have the toy, I'm like, eh. And like, that's making me think like, man, those companies really got into my brain. Because I'm not even nostalgic about having these things I loved. I'm nostalgic about the hype cycle of wanting it because they were selling it to me in commercials and I saw it on the shelves. And yeah.
That feeling of wanting Bruticus, the Transformer that was made of tanks or whatever. Like I still sometimes remember what that felt like, that like raw adrenaline of just, oh, I want this big giant robot made of tanks. But speaking of Pokemon, Matt, do you remember that Pikachu I used to have?
I don't think so.
It came out of a Happy Meal or something, and it had 2 little electric contacts, and if you touched both of them, it would go Pikachu. But if you touched one of the contacts and then held hands with other people, and then then another person in the circle was holding the other contact, and then one of the people, when you closed the circle, it would go Pikachu, so you could just like touch someone and it would go Pikachu over and over. Maybe I'm not explaining this well, but
I get it.
Don't really remember that, to be honest.
I don't know where that went, and I really missed that. Because it was fun to just touch people and make them go Pikachu.
It is fun to touch people, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
There's one subtext in this movie which when you notice it becomes more interesting, which is a Sid who is in the movie. Did you pick up on this?
Wait, what? I missed that. When was Sid in the movie?
Sid is the garbage man.
He's the garbage man that they all hitch a ride with at the end of the film.
Oh my God.
And almost throws him away earlier in the film. So the subtext is, Sid's comeuppance is still continuing as Andy is now going off to college and Sid is an 18 or 19-year-old garbage man.
But even more problematic
what?
is the fact that they think being a garbage man is comeuppance.
I was going to say,
those people are not worthy of respect.
Yeah, if Andy went to college in 2010, he is very likely to not be making as much as a garbage man was making.
Okay, good
would
point.
Be making if he kept doing the garbage man job, because they make something like $19 an hour and have benefits. I know plenty of people who went to college during that time period, went to like law school, who were having trouble finding any job at all. And
Andy was a pretty creative kid. I bet he went and did some very not financially helpful degree.
He went and started an animated film studio. It's just, this is the thing. I looked this up because I was curious. The first Funko Pops were revealed about 1 year after this movie came out. I'm not a Funko Pop person myself, but I feel like that was almost like this tipping point where, oh, adults just have toys now. Like this movie
Funko
was a
Pops
little
are to toys what Ready Player One was to films.
yeah. I was thinking somebody should really make a Funko Pop movie, but it would just be like all the licensed toys like in the Lego movie, but they would all just have this soulless empty voice like, "I'm Batman. Hi." They would all talk like that. Like someone should do that. And it would
I
be
think
unwatchable.
I would only watch a Funko Pops movie if it was made by someone else who hates Funko Pops.
Like Tim and Eric make it.
Yeah.
How for creepy toys? How does Big Baby rate? Because we got creepy ones in Toy Story 1, if you remember them. Here you get Big Baby.
Did anybody feel like that was a weird commentary about humans being terrible? Like the most monstrous thing in the film is a human baby.
Those
So the
I just
daycare
thought-
monsters are humans.
again, I was at the daycare. The baby with the eyes like that is pretty creepy. Like,
I mean, yeah, I couldn't help
The
but think
baby-
about it.
The baby creeped me out in the beginning. I was like, those aren't good people when that baby is there. But
Yeah.
then we got to see that, baby was abused and lied to, and baby it wasn't like that at all. So baby was redeemed at the end and had Barbie to take care of baby. But I will say that because we have Sid's toys in the first movie, right? And then in another movie, there's some other toys that are like not normal toys, right?
Yeah,
I
I don't
think
remember
in
the
4,
second one very well.
I think there might be some in 4 somewhere,
I know
or it's
4 is
just that
Forky.
yes, so
Yeah,
4 has
Forky's the whole thing.
Forky, and it may just be that because in 4, not sorry spoilers, they're in an
It's
antique
fine.
shop. They're in an antique shop at some point, and so I think it's just that those toys are vintage and even creepier because they're vintage toys. And this baby doll that was naked basically, and had no identifier stuff besides it reminded me of those toys. I like it when they do that and play around with putting different heads on things and making them creepy, because that's the best.
It's like Funko Pops.
Yeah. Look, I have 3 Funko. No, I have more. I have some in storage. But not only did they make Spock with a cat, he has blue eyeshadow.
What?
Like, it's
Wait.
amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, like he's like, yeah. So, and
I do own some Funko Pops, but they came unbidden into my life.
I've almost bought the Gloomy. There's a bunch of Gloomy Bear ones now. Like, I almost bought a couple of Gloomy Bear ones. I might still.
I don't.
Since the
I
bottom
feel like
fell out.
Gloomy Bear's not so much of a thing in Japan anymore. Because the first
I'm
time I
sure,
was in
yeah, it's
Japan,
an
I came
American-
back with Gloomy Bear stuff. Yeah. Well, it was
I still have
originally
my-
here, but
I mean, look, I have my Gloomy Bear coffee mug right here that I got, I think, the first time I went to Japan, maybe the second. I can't remember.
It does remind me of the Totoro appearance in this movie. That, like, there you
yeah.
were. Like, that was fun.
Like, another reason Bonnie is better than Andy.
Yeah, Bonnie was great. Like, I mean, when we met Bonnie, I was just like, oh my gosh, what a total sweetheart with a big imagination. I adore her. So having her be in there and come back around, and then she's also in the 4th movie. Big win there. Much better than Andy's sister. Sorry, Andy's sister. Sorry, Andy.
Yeah,
I'm a
Andy's
big
sister
Bonnie
was.
fan.
Yeah, Andy's sister was like 8. She was just, why aren't you getting rid of your toys?
I want your room. Give it to me. Okay, sure.
My mum loves to bring up the time that I was like 21 and my brother was 12. And my brother gave me all his Transformers because he'd grown out of them.
Oh man, I wish that my sister had gotten into Transformers and given me hers. Then they hadn't been put in the attic with the rats.
Nah, as an only child, but I guess that means you get spoiled with some toys. So
Yeah, and then you go and sell them when you're in your 20s. Like, I sold most of my Little
Yeah.
Ponies because they came back. Like, they came back, and all of a sudden there was a market for My Little Ponies, and it was like one of my favorite childhood toys. But I was like, nope, goodbye, bye ponies, go live a good life. I kept like 1 or 2 ponies, but I'm happy that they're somewhere in the world.
It's
Yeah,
like, you know, if you sell them for more than what they originally cost, the second owner is much less likely to ever, get rid of them. So that's
Yeah.
kind of a win-win. I've thought about selling the Grimlock. Grimlock was never my very favorite Transformer, but I just don't.
Make
I
Luke
don't think it's
cry.
worth a whole lot because there were a ton of them, really.
Yeah. And it's work. It's work to sell things. I think we go through
Oh, God.
phases. Like, well, and you're talking about like when you've downsized with things. And like I just did that because I had to move cross country. And I was like, I can't take all this stuff. So what is it time to move past, like move away from? And it was my comic book statues, which I'm kind of sad about, but they were mostly in storage. And I don't read comics anymore because I can't afford to read comics anymore.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, move on from those. And I sold them at a huge loss, but they're off to make someone else happy. So
Well, I mean, the good thing about comics is you can get collections and digital stuff much cheaper than they ever were.
yes,
I
thank
got
goodness.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, with my daughter several years ago, we just doubled down on the Legos. I mean, maybe that was lazy thinking. But it's like,
Yeah.
but it's fun. That's why you be more active, playing with your kid that way. I mean, you end up just
Yeah.
picking out the pieces and not building anything for the most part. But I had to build a fair amount of the Ecto One. That was difficult. So
I've come very close to buying Legos. I just see them and I'm just like, this is probably a bad idea. I'm just gonna back away. But I know
Don't
at
do
some
it.
point, there is a roller disco for $50.
someday when I go back to my parents' house in Atlanta, there is a TARDIS Lego set waiting. It's got
Nice.
Capaldi and Matt Smith as the figures, and maybe
Nice.
not Rose. Who's later? Whoever was later.
Clara's the one who
Yes.
overlapped those two doctors.
Yes,
That makes sense.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
third figure, correct? So one day I'll build my TARDIS.
Cool.
My
You know,
brother was super into Lego, and now my parents occasionally buy me Legos, and I'm like, thanks, I guess.
The Wally behind me is a Lego Wally. Like I
Right.
love Lego stuff because you're using your brain, and especially not that we're old, but as I get older, I want to make sure that the activities I'm doing, like I'm still working my brain with. But sadly, I don't really have much more money now than I did when I was, 10 years old. So it's hard
Yeah.
to upkeep the Lego, and that is the real risk. And I know for me, because I'm a collector type personality, that I could start. I've been good with Lego so far, but I have to be really careful what I start getting excited about because then I fixate on it and then I'm just like, what money? I didn't spend that money. And then I've got more Legos. So far so good, but good luck.
Yeah, I think I got a
There-
few more Lego sets than my wife would have been happy with, but daughter's happy.
There is a person who builds brutalist architecture using Lego on Instagram, and I'm trying to find their Instagram handle just to give them a shout out. But that's definitely been kind of a source of Lego joy for me, just following that guy or lady. I can't remember who it was. So anyway, I'm going to keep looking for that and say it when I find it.
Did we see many Legos in these movies?
This would have been
No.
not that far off the Lego movie, right? So
A few
The
years
Lego
earlier.
movie was, it was after this. Because
even
Lego
if the
movie
Lego,
was,
even if the Lego movie wasn't out, Lego were pumping out Lego Star Wars movies and Lego superhero movies and stuff. So maybe they
Yeah.
weren't willing to just give away their brand to something else.
We have blocks, some
The chair,
blocks in there.
the chair they tie Buzz to was made of Lego.
Lego Tonic. Lego_Tonic is the person who I was following. It does cool brutalist architecture, and I'm looking right now, and it makes me very happy. Just looking at the top couple of things. I know I probably could just download how to build those myself and go to a website and order the exact bricks, but that would be very expensive, and then I would just be copying somebody else.
Yeah, that stuff's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we have in Nagano, they make the nano blocks. I don't know if these show up in the States much. They might, but they're much smaller than Legos, and most of them, there's some you make some Pokemon out of, but we have a few that you build like world sites after, like the Coliseum or whatever.
What'd
So
you say they're called?
nano blocks.
We have dots. I don't know about nano blocks.
Okay, might be along those lines, but
Dots is still like mostly circles.
those are much more difficult to build than the Legos.
Huh.
You need to use like tweezers and stuff sometimes.
Oh wow.
Yes.
The first
No
result I
way.
saw was a bear peeing into a toilet that's Lego, and they built the pee and everything. They built the arc of
Okay.
translucent yellow Legos. But it's on
Okay.
Temu, so it probably isn't real.
Oh, yeah. Can't trust the internet for what's real anymore.
I mean, it says 448. Like, you decide. Is a sort of elaborate Lego set for 448 real? Probably not. Here's a very elaborate pink sakura tree for 1486. Also probably fake.
Well,
Maybe you
that
get it
sounds
somewhere.
more likely. I did learn.
$14.86. I can't convey to you how elaborate this is, but it is very elaborate.
Okay. I did learn what transom means from watching this a few nights ago.
Was it
Oh yeah,
treacherous ransom?
I do remember Buzz bringing up that word.
Yeah, which is the window above a door, which I didn't.
Huh.
I learned that. I learned the word from Toy Story 3 like 2
And
nights ago.
I just learned it from you.
There we go.
I learned it and then forgot it and then learned it again from you all in the space of
There you
12 hours.
go.
So
And you'll probably forget it by the end of the day.
I'll learn it again tomorrow when you bring it up again.
Cycle of learning.
We I think it's reasonable to have a bunch of toy talk when you're talking Toy Story 3, so that's cool. But I did want to see if anyone had some focused movie observations before we go too far down the line.
So watching it last night, a couple of things I took away was the plot. I don't like that in all three films they find an excuse to do Buzz's story again.
Yeah. I have that in my notes.
Like,
yes.
I would have liked it if this film he just got to be their pal all the way through the film.
Yeah,
like,
it's like
it's getting into the Mr. Data problem that you always bring up, Matt. Like,
uh-huh.
it's a liability to keep Buzz around if he can just be turned into a villain every movie.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, the overall plot just felt like it was built on like maybe one too many coincidences. So I think it's a film that works really well once, but I don't necessarily think it works on a rewatch because the emotional beats, once you know how everything plays out, I think they hit slightly less hard. And then you're just watching the film, and it has funny gags and there's some cool creepy imagery, but it doesn't really, I don't think it holds together very well.
It sort of has that problem where they're desperately trying to get back to the kid or the adult who doesn't really want them anymore so he can give them to the person they find halfway through the film anyway.
Yeah.
I think that the first thing that pops into my head is how The Matrix Reloaded is about Neo desperately saving Trinity and then she just dies in a car accident right after that. But I mean, they didn't know well, it's like, of course they didn't know they were going to make Toy Story 4, and they didn't know they were going to make Toy Story 5 when they made 4, I'm sure. But yeah, it was
on the way, is it?
It is. This was just announced pretty recently, like April. But yeah, it was kind of difficult watching Woody just desperately flailing at something that wasn't ever going to work out. And that's part of why I like 4 better, is because 4 is sort of about about Woody just being like, you know what? I'm good. I'm leaving. I'm gonna go off with Bo Peep and explore the world until Toy Story 5 inevitably brings us back together somehow.
That was what was just weird to me about between 3 and 4, that if 3 is about coming together as that family and Woody realizing that who he really wanted to be with was not Andy, which, yes, like that relationship with Andy was very unhealthy, and I think there's discussion to be had around it. Like that was a bit too much. But to come back around and be like, no, I'm meant to be here with all of the toys, with my toy family, And again, we didn't have Bo Peep in this movie, so that little element was left out. I like coming back around to Woody being more level-headed and saying, no, I actually want to go live my life for me at this point. My life isn't just to take care of everybody. But then he also like leaves all the toys behind to go be with Bo. And it's just we're going in so many different directions. So I kept asking myself if the events of 4 take away from what happens in 3. And like to me it kind of does, but at the same time, like like I'm okay with Woody going off on his own, but it was just like, but we just got there. Like you just got to the place. And I know here we are a year or two, whatever time lapse in between making the movies, but it was just like, oh, we're a happy family. And then, oh no, Woody's done and Woody's gonna go basically get married or whatever. Uh that just turns out being kind of weird to me, and God knows what 5 is going to be. I struggled with Buzz Lightyear too. Like I watched 30 minutes of it and I quit, and I wound up going back later on and still having trouble getting hooked.
I haven't
So I
heard
don't
anyone
even
really speak
I
well of that movie.
I thought about watching it because obviously I have Disney Plus, which is just watch everything. But I watched Turning Red instead, and I kind of like Turning Red. It was a mixed bag, but
I do need to watch that because I work like 3 miles away from Lesser Pandas.
that the thing is the pandas look really cool, but as a metaphor, it is flawed.
Well, that's I think the Toy Story metaphor. I can't quite figure out what the relationship between the toys and kids is meant to represent, but I don't think it holds up to 3 films of scrutiny.
Yeah.
Like the first film, it's like great, they're toys, they want to be played with, and then by this time it's like what is going on that they're this desperate for this adult to play with them? Creating
yeah, they're like calling him and stuff.
They're like, what does this represent? I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, it is just
Well,
one
it's
sliver from
super
a horror.
There's an issue. I don't really like the structure that Hollywood has decided that there should be a trilogy of films and the third one is about death. Like that doesn't it seems like anytime someone comes back and makes a fourth one, like The Matrix Resurrections, they're just like, you know what? Let's bring them back. That was pretty hasty to just kill off these characters. It was sort of the Toy Story 4 was a little bit like that. Pretty different, but you know, there's no like machines bringing them back to life over 100 years. I guess I'm just dumping spoilers everywhere. I'm sorry if you haven't seen that film, but yeah, it's like you're sort of writing yourself into a corner because you just want to complete the thing, but really completion is overrated. You don't have to, because that doesn't work out if you're going to come back and do more. Return of the Jedi probably could have been set up better for sequels than it was.
All right, but the problem is you can write good endings, but the modern Hollywood system doesn't let you anymore.
Yeah,
so,
you just have to end
people
it.
Like, I'm going to make a film that's about death and it's about an ending, and then it's like, yeah, but we could keep making millions of dollars if we make another one.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I guess Back to the Future 3 is just the thing where Bob Gale got the rights and he was just, no one's going to make another one of these ever while I'm alive.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I
possibly
thought of
dead.
that movie with the opening of this one, like the Wild West theme. Just like, oh,
Yeah, the train over the bridge and everything.
yeah.
Yep.
And then flying. Yeah, actually very Back to the Future.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think Back to the Future is a perfect trilogy, but at least it ended and it didn't really kill anybody. It was just like, this is the end of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine because you really don't. I think maybe Star Wars has put us in a position where a lot of people, when they saw Rogue One, were just like, well, of course everyone dies. They weren't in any of the other movies, so they must be dead.
But as Star Wars has taught us, there's only like 3 planets and everyone knows everyone. So unfortunately, that was what they had to do.
There's the sand planet, the ice planet, and the fire planet, and there's only a few people in each one, and they all know each other.
And they're all related.
And Jedi, being super mystical beings, were all able to be snuffed out, except for one of them, or 2 of them, or 3 of them.
3 or 4 or 5.
However we need for this series or this video game.
The plot asks for.
The last of the Jedi you will be, except from this one and this one and this one and this one.
I had a conversation with some friends about that, and I'm just gonna read off some of the texts that I suggested that they should actually make into Star Wars movies. I'm just gonna read a couple. What do we got? God, this is a long conversation. Oh, different one. Okay. Someone discovers the Force while losing their virginity, and their partner explodes. Then they have to escape the police.
What kind of police?
Someone figures out how to use the Force fucking around in their garage or something, and then they rob a bank with it. Just do that. You don't have to, you don't have to do stuff about the fate of the galaxy. Just have somebody figure out Force stuff and then do Force stuff. Or don't.
I guess that's the Andor approach.
Yeah, Andor, my favorite Star Wars thing of all time.
I guess we'll start pulling the tank in and decide if this is a film or filth. At least as far as the regulars here, I guess I'm the one that likes the best. So I get what you're saying, but I'm just like, yeah, I guess I just have like nostalgia from raising a kid from this movie also, because it is just like was in the blood for a few years.
I haven't picked it to pieces, but it's still a film. It's still totally enjoyable to watch. It's just sort of a thing where if you think about it too hard, it falls apart. And the filth is that I think about things too hard sometimes.
Yeah, I do like this film. I think the problem is it's a fairly simple, sweet little kids film. So when you try and spend an hour talking about it on a podcast, you end up picking it apart. But fundamentally, like my memory of watching this the first time, I adore. And I still liked the film last night. I still think it's a good film. It has funny moments. It has heartfelt moments. The characters are great. The sort of creepy imagery is really fun when they use it. But it's definitely not a bad film. I guess I think just it was trying to tell a story in a world where businesses don't let you tell that story.
Mm-hmm.
And it was trying to tell quite a sad little story while also having kind of a happy ending. And I think it couldn't quite do. I bet there's an earlier version of this film in a draft somewhere, which is maybe a little more successful at what it does. But it still has to be a bit Disney.
I almost forgot a shout out to Gail and Sussman, who was just laid off by Disney. She was the woman who saved the entirety of Toy Story 2 because she had a backup and then drove it for however many miles while heavily pregnant however many years ago. Laid off.
The note said, yeah, but what have you done for us lately?
Yeah, those are a lot of the comments from Internet Bros. What? Yeah, but what has she done lately?
I don't recall saying good luck.
Burn. If I want to understand why Woody, like what the obsession was, and was there a message there? Because that really makes it troubling, because the relationship between a toy and their person, or Andy and Woody, is not that they're like in love or partners. And I feel like that kind of obsession is what I see in relationships sometimes, where one person is just so codependent on the other person that they can't be away. And I mean, you do get that familial with families, I guess, sometimes.
I think a charitable read with it is supposed to be Woody is in the same position as Andy's mum, where it's like a parental thing and they have to let go of the child because they've grown up.
Yeah.
But then the sort of played with metaphor makes that all a bit murky because, yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird. And overall, I think that, as we've said, like, it works to an extent. It's entertaining. It's nice to bring them all together. There's lots of funny jokes. There are things to find, like there's Easter eggs throughout the movie to find. And for me, like, it hits, even watching it a few times over, like, I'm still touched by what happens. But yeah, when you think too hard, it just, nope. I just want to know back. So I don't think it's filth. I think you just don't think, and I mean, I feel like that's a general rule for everything these days, because I come to that same conclusion when I talk about Star Trek. If you pick it apart too much, you're just going to ruin it for yourself. So don't think too hard about all of it all of the time.
That's why sometimes you need a guy to come in and just write a a script about sea captains battling and make it a Star Trek movie, and then that gets everybody back on board. Yeah, I feel the same way. That Woody was weirdly obsessed with getting back to Andy, and I think it was just to move the plot forward, and it seemed weird because we're not children just going, of course he needs to get back to Andy. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially
if you're
having seen it
6, that
already.
makes sense.
Especially having seen it already and knowing what the end of the movie is. I think that, like Luke said about the rewatching thing.
Like he was just so chill with them, like living in the attic. Like, is that really
Yeah.
who you are? That like you're gonna go off to college with your man or your dude, your friend, and everybody else is gonna live in the attic. Like all your best friends are
Yeah.
living in the attic, and you're cool with that. Okay.
Yeah, or somebody being like, my husband wants me to stay in the attic. I'm going back to stay in the attic.
It's
Ugh.
fine, Andy. We'll just wait in the
Yeah.
attic. We're gonna be fine. We have each other. Like there is just, yeah, there's some really weird messaging there that we shouldn't think too much about.
They
Now,
didn't seem very happy in the box.
Mark, you said you had a bad review, a 1-star review that you
Oh.
somewhat agree with.
Yeah, it's none of them are very fun. So I'll just get that out of the way. Don't have my usual fun misspelled thing. Okay. Seriously? By Sue Mankey 13. Honestly, I don't understand what most here are blathering on about. Most of you must not have seen many great movies if you think this movie was great and, quote, life-changing. I just don't get it, especially with how amazing the first 2 Toy Stories were. This movie started out with the characters and trauma and kept it that way all the way through, with each situation growing more and more sinister. This is supposed to be a kids' movie? How is it appropriate to insinuate torture and prison in a kids' movie? Seems to me the writers ran out of ideas and rehashed almost the same plot, The Toys Need Rescuing, from the previous movie, only this time involved more times riding in a garbage truck, involved a scary, crushing, fiery furnace, and an evil bear who, in my opinion, was a borderline racist casting. Started off Southern black friendly and ended up sounding like a black thug. No.
Oh,
And
okay.
let's not forget to mention the disturbing and demented, quote, big baby dragging off Mr. Potato Head to teach him a lesson. I am almost laughing as I write seriously here about the torturing of Mr. Potato Head. But honestly, my boyfriend and I felt traumatized watching this movie. Kids may be immune, but we weren't. Laziness on the part of the writers, perhaps. Definitely not best picture material. I honestly do not mean to offend people here, but what are you people thinking? Peace. S. 21 out of 94 found this helpful.
Peace.
Oh,
Peace.
I forgot to mention, so we didn't go over how Mr. Potato Head turned himself into a pickle.
Yeah, Mr. Tortilla Man. Oh,
funniest
first we got
shit I've
Mr.
ever seen.
Tortilla Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We gotta be creative, right? Yeah. There's your creativity.
Let's,
Matt doesn't
Yeah,
get
well,
what you're
somebody-
referencing, Mac.
well,
don't get what
somebody
you're
was,
referencing.
they did it first, so that was creative, I guess.
Yep.
What, they turned
I
Link into a
I'm
pickle?
really
He
confused.
turned
I'm very
himself into a pickle.
confused by the racist comments. I don't know where that is coming from. That's kind of weird.
I didn't read that. I didn't read into that, but the person writing that review might not be white, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, who knows? I agree. Like, yes, this movie dealt with a lot of different types of traumas, and the sad thing about entertainment these days is that it deals with trauma a lot. I feel like we have moved past the times of it's escapism, everything works out in the end, we're all happy, like we deal with some hard stuff, but everything's okay. And we just went into this long depressive streak of dealing with lots of heavy stuff. And look, I think that I had this came up in the Mission Long Discord over the new Superman show, like the CW Superman, which I have only seen like 3 or 4 episodes. But apparently later on in the series, they're dealing with a character having cancer, and that was really tough for some people to deal with, and they didn't want to deal with that in the show that should be about escapism. Whereas someone else was like, I didn't want to watch it, but it wound up being really helpful for me to watch. So like I think collectively we're in a place, because I see it throughout Star Trek 2, where they're using entertainment to try to reach out and help people through their trauma, become aware of their trauma. suggest that they just look at it and do, like, maybe if we see it enough, it's going to resonate and encourage people to go seek help with something somewhere. I don't know. But it's a little overwhelming when it is everywhere, and especially in places that we want to go to for happiness. And I think this movie was like, thank God the end of this movie had the note with the toys all being united and played with and going to Bonnie. Because otherwise, yeah, it would have just been a lot of dealing with really tough stuff. And then, as we said, like Lotso doesn't get helped in the end. Lotso gets, ejected from society, which, okay, that's a message, but the general message of most of us is that even when you're bad like that, we try to reach out and help you and turn you around to make you a better person. And that didn't happen here. Whether it's a statement Disney is making, I don't know. But it's something that I've noticed overall. And me personally, I would love to go back to just like the happy ending stuff. That's why I love Ratatouille. Like, I feel good at the end of that. I just watched all of Ted Lasso, last season 3 of Ted Lasso. I'm like, where am I going to get my happy feelings? Because now I've got to go watch Silo, which I haven't started watching yet, but which I hear is like a lot. So I'm like, where else do I go to get the happy feelings? Because a lot of the television I watch is just a lot. And it's a weird space to navigate right now.
Yeah,
This is
I'd
why
seen some clips of that Superman and it looked really wholesome. So like I was kind of thinking of watching it, and it's like, oh, there's going to be some difficult stuff to
Yep.
deal with as well, huh?
Yep.
CW is sort of like that. Like the Flash, I thought was really great at first, and then the third season of the Flash was like your girlfriend is going to die unless you fight. God, I don't remember.
Whatever,
But I was gonna
another
point.
fast moving thing. Yeah, I
It's
kind of
always
Yeah.
another
the middle of
It's
speedster.
the fast.
Yeah.
It was another speedster.
Yeah.
I think it was him from an alternate. But I was gonna say is that's part of why I like Frozen. And I'm gonna come back to that and elaborate, because Frozen is basically uh, Elsa is having some stuff she has to work out, and she has to be alone to work out her stuff, and then she works out her stuff and gets back with her family, and that's kind of the whole thing. And I love that because I I am one of those people. I do tend to kind of withdraw when I'm having a rough time, and then I figure things out alone. And some people are like that. I'm not like an introvert, but um that's like a very simple story compared to this, or compared to a lot of the other Pixar things.
I just one last thing before we wrap up. I want to give a shout out to a film which I think did what Toy Story 3 was doing, but I think did it better. Which was Digimon Last Evolution. Because that was also about the characters have grown up and they're sort of letting go. I'm assuming none of you have seen this. Like it's
I keep meaning to watch. What's the really good Digimon movie that was made by like the guy that one guy who went on to make a bunch of things that everyone loves? You know what I'm talking about? It was like
yeah, it's called Our War Game, but it's only like a 20-minute movie.
Okay.
And then in America, it's wrapped into part of an absolute mess of a movie.
I've been meaning to watch that, but it's
but this is the first thing since that which feels like that.
Okay.
But that one also has like a we have to grow up and move on from this childish thing, and it has a very, very sad ending. Like the whole theater was crying. But it's sort of, I think that what they were going for was they're like, yeah, you move on from childish things, but you take the lessons it taught with you. And I think it did it in a way which, like, there was still something, because Pokemon has constantly been like, no, stay a child forever, never grow up. Whereas Digimon was like, yeah, you should grow up and leave this stuff behind. But it doesn't mean you have to forget about it. You had some good times with it, and you can take those lessons with you. And I think that was done pretty well.
Yeah, as a permanent man-child, one of the things I like most about Pokemon is that you're walking around the world and you find like a 65-year-old man, and he says, "Hey, can't help but notice you've got that really cool Pokemon. How about let's battle? I have Pokemon too." And it's just everyone just wants to fight you, and because they all also have Pokemon forever. That's a sort of a more maybe Star Trek like ideal where everybody can just have toys forever, but they're also prisoners. But
no, Pokemon like it. It's fine.
They're happy.
I guess we will wrap things up for today. Heather, you want to tell people about your mission log live stint one more time, just to keep it all fresh in the
Yeah.
mind?
Yeah, so gosh, new Star Trek this week. But a Mission Log Live is on Monday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time. It is on Facebook. Just come hang out, watch along. You can call in if you've watched the episodes. Sometime we have cool guests that you can ask questions to. But yeah, I love Strange New Worlds. We've been doing a rewatch on our Discord for our patrons. And it's been really fun revisiting all the episodes. We're doing the final one, Quality of Mercy, tomorrow night, and then new Star Trek on Thursday, which is amazing. And we're going to continue those conversations on Wednesdays. So I would say if anybody's looking to talk about them, come join us on the Mission Log Patreon.
We're all staring each other down.
Yeah, Matt, you do
Awesome.
the plugs on this one. You always do them.
You do the
Do I?
plugs.
What I always do now. Okay. Anyway, this is Films and Filth. You can find it Films and Filth on Twitter. Maybe we're on Facebook. We have a Patreon under Podcastius, where you get uncut episodes of this early. We talk about the Twilight Zone on Time Enough podcast. More Disney, and I call it Disney. And Luke keeps your gamer fires flowing with Luke Loves Pokemon, getting into a Pokemon family every week. Hyrule Field Report about the Zelda games and the game shows where gamers play the game, not the player, unless they game the player. I'm trying to. It's successful if I don't know what I just said when I described the show. That's how I see it now.
I think it's fine.
You just won the game.
I'm a winner! Yay!
No, actually, you just lost.
Mark,
the
you
game.
just lost the game. Yeah.
Well, that's clear. It's clear who's the winner, who's the loser now. No.
Once again, Mark, me and you made a reference that Matt didn't get.
We could just keep doing this forever.
Yeah. Oh well. So long, partner.
Okay, that's enough time for me to spot a cut then. Alrighty. Yeah, lots of toy talk, and that works out well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I never planned to grow up and give away my toys. I will have them my whole life. And that is being an adult now, is being allowed to have toys your whole life. So
I left most
You know
of
what?
mine in a different country.
People
I
200
did
years
that,
ago
and then
had their wood
I left all my
furniture.
toys in a different country, and then I filled a new apartment with toys in this country. So
yeah.
I mean, I have some toys from your country. I mean, your now country,
Mm.
Japan. I still have that toilet. Remember that, Matt? It was like one of those temples where it's a thing where it's like a little toilet, and you open the lid, and a little poop just dances, and it plays jazz music.
Yeah. I remember that. That and the weird game pyramid. Yeah.
I still have that.
I got a little polar bear with a urinal.
Nice.
You can get a Lego. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.